Bokurano. This series may seem like another mecha manga Evangelion clone, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Honestly, if you're looking for a manga just to see a robot defending the Earth from alien threats, this is not the manga for you. I mean, it does have all that, but for me, Zerf, which is the name given to the massive robot, despite its size, was far and away just a small side character. Though to be fair, I've never struggled to find the main character throughout a series as much as I have while reading Bokurano. But God, I really hope it's not this guy. And certainly not this Neopet douchebag. This guy literally Chris Brown's sister every other panel. And this guy, well, he's just a dick. But that's when I realized that all these characters are the main characters. And that's not to sound cheesy or anything, but it's just that they all bring life to the manga and they all tell their own story. I was super hesitant to go into this manga because I thoroughly believed the plot centralized around 15 different kids would taper off at some point. I figured at least one or more of these kids would be poorly written and boring, but I couldn't have been more wrong. Each of these kids that pilot Zerf have their own personality. They aren't the same tired tropes you've seen repeatedly throughout manga. They tell their own stories, and over time, the kids begin to win you over and get you to sympathize with their situation even more than you originally thought possible. I found myself often clenching my fists and almost tearing up at points because of the amount of trauma that these kids have to endure. But I'm not a baby. Without getting into any spoilers, there are really times where I just straight up forget that these are kids, because throughout the manga, they are actually having me question my own principles and how I see the world, and making me think about things I normally wouldn't have given a second thought about. But that's not to say there aren't still moments where they portray their innocence and remind you that these are children putting their lives on the line, and that is when the reality of their situation hits you like a glass of cold water. While reading, you'll find yourself asking questions like, what is Earth? What are these massive aliens? What is the point of all of this? And why is this guy such a prick? You get answers to all these questions for the most part, but the author does such a good job at letting you forget these questions and instead immerses you into getting to know the pilots of Zerf. Take for instance, Masuro Kodoka, the third pilot of Zerf. Now, if you want to go in without knowing anything about the story, then you can skip ahead, but this happens like within the first 10 chapters, so I think you'll be alright. Masuro is a very cold and self-centered boy whose father is an overall scumbag that believes he is far above others, thus giving them the right to treat women and men like garbage, and he struts around like the world is his own. Masuro's brothers, on the other hand, want to be the opposite of their father and desire to carve out their own path. However, despite all of his father's flaws, Masuro admires him greatly and wants to be just like him, labeling his father as the chosen man. A man who knows just how to push others beneath his boots and keep them there. When the battle starts, Masuro walks around with little regards to those around him, and there are multiple casualties. Despite the objections of the group, he states that it'll only help his father's business and that the lives of a few thousand mean very little in the face of billions. He gets off to the power that Zerth gives him because as a kid he has none, but here are people dying at his feet. Suddenly, battle ensues, and he is flung backwards, further into the city. But you really don't need to worry. I mean, Masuro doesn't care about the damage he does to the city or the lives that are lost, and Zerf has pretty much impenetrable armor. Right? Right? And that was the lamest guy in the manga. Each of these kids tell their entirely unique story that raises the bar each and every time. Curveball after curveball, the series that seems like it would have a very straightforward plot never goes the way you expect it to go. The twists are jaw-dropping without feeling like they're forced and completely out of left field. And if you do end up picking this series up, you'll notice that a lot of the endings to these fights and a lot of different scenes are done completely off panel, but I don't think that takes away from the story at all. The writer knows that his audience is smart enough to put pieces together by themselves as to what happens, and that's something to be appreciated. At the same time though, not seeing it happen makes that empty feeling you get in your heart 1,000 times worse. At the end of the day though, Bokurano is chock full of moments that'll make your gut sink, and if you're the type of masochist who wants to make themselves even more depressed, then this is the manga for you.